Happy Monday, everyone. Greg Diamond here, editor of 10 Stock Trader at Stansberry Research. Welcome to another edition of Diamond's Edge. And this week, we're going to look at what happened with semiconductors last week. We're going to look at some of the divergence that I'm seeing. We're going to look at some of the oversold levels that I'm seeing. And then I'm going to look ahead in terms of some of the economic catalysts, the Fed, inflation numbers, earnings, obviously, and kind of how this picture fits in terms of what we can expect going forward. All right. So here's the semiconductor sector, VanEck Semiconductor Sector, SMH is the ticker. And as I mentioned to subscribers on Friday, over the weekend, even this morning, on Monday here, that I don't think I've ever seen such an overreaction to something that hasn't even happened yet, i.e. earnings. Okay. So we saw this almost panic selling on Friday. And again, as you can see here, this happened into oversold levels. You can see the RSI here as of last week and today. You can see the composite index here at the low. Now, and then you have to ask yourself, is this something that you would rather buy or sell? And in my case, it's something that I would rather buy, because we can see here going back all the way to last summer, these have all marked at least short-term lows that led to eventual rallies. So, again, from a technical perspective, it's hard to say what's going to happen with earnings, that they're always kind of a binary outcome. However, let's say we get a bounce and then a drop, or then a drop and then a bounce. This is probably going to be an opportunity to buy. All right. So then when I talk about divergence on Friday, we saw SMH drop, obviously, but the banks were up. Okay. So here's a chart of XLF. All right. And you can see here, this is on Friday, and the banks were looking great. Okay. So when I see that, it always makes me look, if I saw everything kind of sell off, Nvidia was down 10%, but the banks were up over 1%. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense from a momentum point of view, from a divergence point of view. Like, all right, we're really actually in big trouble in terms of the big picture stocks. So that's kind of where my mindset is again. And even with XLF here, you can see how, RSI almost got down to the extreme oversold levels, but the CI did, the composite index did. Again, these marked decent lows going back for a while. So again, ask yourself whether this is something that you would want to buy or sell. And to me, this is something I want to buy. Now, again, it doesn't mean that we won't have more volatility in the next week or two, maybe even next month or two. I'm not saying that's not going to happen. But my point is that this looks to me like an opportunity to add to long positions. Okay. So this is XLF. And then I also wanted to show you the Dow. And this is something that I highlighted early on Friday morning to subscribers. I was up around 2 o'clock in the morning looking at what happened with Iran and Israel, and we saw this huge spike low. This was actually, and you can see the Elliott wave count here. This looks to be a fifth wave. Maybe we get one more drop and then we rally. But even if that happens, look what's happening here at the bottom, okay? And I'll track this for you. But you can see here, this dipped down into oversold levels that we haven't seen since late last year that marked the low, right? And we got this huge rally. And then I also want to highlight the composite index. This is why I like using it in conjunction with the RSI, is because when you see these oversold levels happen, oftentimes you'll see the composite index start to slope up before that happens, okay? So you can see that is happening now here in April, probably heading into May. So again, if we take into account, what could happen in terms of semiconductors or tech earnings out over the next 2 weeks, maybe we get one more new low. But again, this is something that I'm going to be looking towards to buy, not based on the technical picture. All right. So that's something to keep in mind. All right. And so the last part I want to highlight are interest rates. And this is something we've been tracking for a while. And what I want to show you is, you can see how interest rates, obviously from this March 8th low, we've had a nice rally, okay? And we saw March 8th low in interest rates mark the high in semiconductor stocks. Obviously, they're sensitive to interest rates. So the question here is, if the stocks are becoming oversold, which I just showed you that they are, whether it's semiconductors, banks, or industrials, you can also look at the S&P, you can look at other sectors as well. All right, does that mean that interest rates are going to start topping? Now, I'm not going to sit here and try to predict what the Federal Reserve is going to do. However, we have a lot of inflation data coming out this week. We have GDP coming out this week. The Federal Reserve's favorite inflation indicator, PCE, personal consumption expenditures, are coming out as well. All right, so I've highlighted, these kind of inflection points out for the next month or so, call it. And so that what I'm going to be tracking is how interest rates either rise or fall into this resistance, also into these important dates. We have the Federal Reserve meeting, obviously, on May 1st, right? So there's no doubt that this is going to be an important time frame for the markets. The question you have to ask yourself is this a market where you want to buy or sell? And again, when I look at what's interest rates here is topping out, you can see the RSI here is starting to negatively diverge. The composite index is doing the same thing. You take the opposite of that with stocks trading down into oversold levels along with the divergence. And to me, this looks like it's going to be an opportunity to start buying more long positions. So again, doesn't mean we will see more volatility, but that's not when you want to panic. That's not when you want to, hit the sell button just because there's a little bit of fear, a little bit of volatility. You have to look at it as an opportunity. And that's what I'm looking forward to over the next month. So that's what I'm looking at over the next 3 to 4 weeks. So it could be volatile, but I'm looking for opportunities to buy. Thank you. We'll see you next week.